There might not be that many games this year.
I know, that's true.
With coronavirus. Who knows when the season's going to start, right?
It's wild. I've never, this is such a weird time to be in.
Yeah. What's the, looking at it from a legal perspective, what do you got?
There's going to be so many, everything from figuring out what's going to happen to your contract in terms of getting paid, right? So it's going to have to be, it's being negotiated by the union and MLB.
But what are some of the inside detail? When you're writing up a contract, can you account for something like this? Or is this a general clause?
Sure, they put in the force majeure clause. This is the first time that I can think of where it's this clause is going into effect. Because it's an act of God, right? No one foresaw a year ago if someone was oh, there's going to be a virus.
Yeah, it's like a bad movie plot,
sounds
right?
That's what it sounds like. So that clause, that's in it, and it accounts for this. It's an act of God, so it basically says that if you cannot fulfill the contract and your end of the contract because of an act of God, you are not in breach of your contract.
Well, so when I think of act of God, it's I'm driving down the road and an asteroid hits my car and I become disabled.
That's what I usually think of too.
Right.
But I think it usually it
would be I am unable to do my personal job because of something that happened.
Right. The whole world's in panic right now, and so the union, I guess, right now is working, negotiating, setting up a reserve system, kind of, and creating it for this year. But you have to figure out not only are you guys going to get paid, but what happens with service time, right?
Yeah, that's another good question. Do players accumulate?
So they don't know. The thing is, neither side really knows, and so it's right now they're in the process of negotiating it. This is separate from everything that they've agreed on because there isn't anything that accounts for this.
Right.
So guys who, you have to accumulate three total years of service. Unless you're a Super 2, but let's just for simplicity's sake, 3 years to go to arbitration to be able to negotiate your salary.
But is a year,
so
is it
that's what
162 or is it one?
No, so it's one, so a full year is, they account for the off days. So it's basically it's 187, I believe, right now. Every day that you're in the big leagues, right, and you're on a big league roster, you get 1 day of service. You have to accumulate 100 and at least, it's 170. I think it's 172 that you have to get. So they basically give you 12 day or whatever the math is there,
right,
that you can miss and still get a full year. But so every day that you're not playing, you're not getting service. So I don't know if they're going to shorten the season. But then what about your bonuses? What do those look like?
Well, then if you shorten the season, let's say you shorten it to let's say it's going to be 140 games or on a 140 day
right.
timeline.
Proportionally, sure. Okay,
so then does the player get a full season's worth of service time?
Right. He would.
So it would just expand.
That's what it looks like.
So if you had 130 out of 140, you would just make that a proportion of out of 187,
right,
and you would be granted that service time.
Right. So when you have let's say, because 187 is a full year, right? If you finish the year with 174, right? That's above the 172. It doesn't say 174 on your service. It just gives you a full year.
A full year.
So that's what it would be. But what about bonuses? What happens to those? What about guys who have innings pitch? Now do clubs just luck out and they don't, because what if it's impossible for you to hit that?
That's
right?
true. Yeah, there are a lot of contracts that are incentive based.
100%.
We're going to pay you $1 million, but if you hit these bonuses, it could be worth up to $5 or $6 million.
Right.
Especially guys coming back from injury where they don't know if they're going to be healthy or whatnot. Right. That's
even just the All-Star break, right? And figuring out for All-Star.
Tons of guys have. I have one of my contracts.
You have an incentive. You're going to get a big bump, or relatively, but.
Yeah, I get a big bump if I make the All-Star team, but if there is no All-Star game, then does that? Because that was part of the contract that was negotiated to get to agree on certain value and whatever.
We conceded a certain we want this amount. Okay, but if you give him this, right? So it's a little more risky. We don't know if you'll earn it, but we agreed to that, and now you don't even have the opportunity. There are a lot of things that have to be figured out that just aren't figured out.
So how do those get figured out then? Is it is it an individual agent's job to negotiate with the team on how that contract is?
So that's what I was saying, is the union right now is currently in negotiations with MLB.
So the union has to figure out every single player's unique like
No,
contract
they're gonna
situation?
No, they're gonna have an overarching, like, look, this is how we're going to handle, like, one team, I don't believe one team is gonna be able to say, you know, we'll lower, like, sure, if you only pitch this many, like, we'll give you the bonus or whatever, but then another team's like, no, you have to pitch the full, like, even if it's impossible, right? The full amount or whatever to get your bonus. Or
But isn't that something that, like, the individual team would have dominion over because they're running their organization? They negotiated that contract with the player. It's not the union or the league that negotiates it. It's the player and the team,
but
right?
it's a, like, it's a concept, or it's something that is understood, and it's the same throughout. Like, if you pitch 150 innings with this team, it's 150 with another, right? So that's the thing. Like, if you make an all-star with this team, it's still all-star with the other. So, like, it's going to be an overarching kind of like, how do we handle these things, right? It might look different when applied to different contracts, but they're going to have to, I think, handle them all the same. They're going to have to handle service time. They're going to have to figure out, what about option days? Is it going to be fewer option days for, like, there's so many things.
Well, yeah, and when does the Super 2 deadline
exactly
occur? And
all going to be messed up.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then you also have the issue of, you know, you're fortunate enough that you can survive this. You've made, you know, enough money that this isn't devastating for you. Still, if you don't get paid, you're going to lose a lot. But what about minor leaguers? They're living paycheck to paycheck right now.
Well, they haven't had paychecks for 6 months.
Right. And then,
now they're still not getting paychecks.
Right. They're getting a small stipend, right?
But they also, like, probably quit if they had off-season jobs, they probably quit their jobs to come to spring training to play in the season. Right. They probably, you know, if they were driving Uber, or if they were working at a Chipotle or something, like, do they go find a job now and say, oh, but now a week into the job, I got to leave again?
Right. And who's going to, yeah. And then what happens with.
Well, that's another thing that people don't think about is, like, when you come to spring training, people end up getting hurt or they're not ready or whatever the case is, right? So some guys make a big league roster, not necessarily because they're, like, the best guy, but because someone goes down, they get their chance and then they take off.
What about, like, Judge and Stanton, right? Those are two big guys of the Yankees that are out, and, like, they were there minor leaguers that were gonna have their first break at the big leagues,
right? Because
of that injury now. But who knows? Probably by the time season starts again, those guys will be healthy.
Right.
I mean, you have things like that, and just, I mean, the simple fact that, like, where do they go? Do they go home? Like, a lot of them are renting, some of them are living in hotels, and so, like.
Well, that's what we're being told now, is that we're allowed to stay at our spring training facilities and go in if the facility is open and stay there. We're allowed to do that, and if we choose to do that, they'll pay us, like, per diem and live-out expenses while we're in the area, which basically is just an extension of how spring training works. We're also allowed to go home to an off-site location. So if you live in Montana or you live in Miami or whatever, you can go home. But then the logistics of how are you going to get there? Like, are you going to drive? Are you going to take a public fly?
Are you going to ship your car back and pay another couple $1,000s to ship your car so that you have it?
The team's not going to take care of that, I don't think. And then, so we have that option. That's what most guys are looking into doing, is because they want to go be home with their families and, you know, be at their house.
You don't know how long it's going to be.
Right, you have no idea. And what if you live in the Pacific Northwest? Like, can you even go home? Like, if you go home and then we quarantine travel from certain sectors of the country.
There's already minor leaguers that I've talked to today, and I know that are dealing with that, and they don't want to go back to the Pacific Northwest because of that, the whole issue up there.
Right.
And then
and then season starts and you can't get out. Like, how does that work? Now, do you lose your job and your spot because you physically can't get back to work?
But you had options. They could argue you had options to stay here, right? But
but then it's like, okay, you're telling someone they have an option, but their family is back up there, so you're basically penalizing someone for going and seeing their family. That doesn't seem right. Would that actually happen?
I don't know. Nobody knows, and everyone's confused. That's the problem, is right now we're in this weird limbo period where, sure, they said it's postponed for 2 weeks, but now they're basically, like, there's rumor that it's going to be longer. And so
I don't think that 2 weeks is reasonable at all.
And we've been getting emails, I know as agents and I know players, they've been the unions trying to send them out as it goes, but it's like, okay, we've gotten one today, we had like one or two yesterday of like answering little questions here and there, but they're just like starting from the beginning. Like,
yeah, but half of those emails are even conflicting.
Right.
Like yesterday we found out that, players are supposed to stay at the spring training facility and we're going to figure this out probably by Sunday. But then today we find out that now players are basically being told to go home because we don't know when this is going to happen. But yesterday it was definitely happening on the 9th.
Well, there was players that called, because the union called me today to tell me that to make sure that you knew that you can use the facility, because apparently there was another player on your team that was told they can't use the facility. Like, that's the thing, is it's all real time and just trying to figure it out.
The way this thing is going, it's like it's one thing now, but 5 minutes from now it's different, and like it's all happening
and it's
minute to
just
minute.
changing, and it's not that it's anyone's being irresponsible and giving out information. It's just like they're trying to give out information as they go and to help you guys, but they don't really know either.
So in a general employment contract, shifting from players now, but just like the people that work at the ballpark, like in their general employment contract, what is the general language that's put in a contract like that? Are they going to be paid, or is this something where the employer has the right to suspend?
So I would have to look at it. I have never seen one of their contracts. My guess, though, is that they don't get paid if they're not working. That's their contract is probably more of like an independent contractor, setup. So I mean, they're not getting paid if there's no event that they're needed for, right?
Those are the people that you worry about, right?
Right.
I mean, not only from their job and not having income, but then medical. Like, what if they do get sick? Do they have the funds and the means to go get treatment? Is there even treatment? Is there tests? Can they take care of their family? When do they come back to work? Do they go try to get another job in the meantime to bridge the gap?
But then who's even I guess
so many places are shut down now that who's hiring? Yeah.
I mean, I saw a minor leaguer tweeted out that he started last night. He drove for 3 hours, made like $60. He was driving for Postmates. He was like, I don't have a job, or like I need to pay bills. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess you can do that, but I mean, you also have restaurants shutting down. So how active is Postmates? There's so many just unanswered questions, and I know obviously there are people that are fighting for their lives right now, right? Like, so
that's the most important thing.
Right.
Is like all of this comes under a lens of we have certain problems, but not the most important ones of life or death. Right. I mean, fortunately too for us, that it doesn't seem to affect younger people nearly as much.
And kids apparently can't get it, from what I've heard. I don't even think they can get it at all.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know. I haven't heard that. I haven't been researching all this stuff about Corona at all. But yeah, it's a crazy time.
And it just doesn't seem like it's gonna when does it stop? Like, how do you know when it's safe?
How do you think this whole thing unravels? Do you think one league decides to start games up and kind of sets the precedent, and then the others follow? Do you think that because it's probably going to be baseball that has to do that, right? Baseball is going to be the one, like, we're starting our season.
Right.
It'd be a lot easier to say, oh, NBA, like, look, this happened, the playoffs are canceled, we'll get them next year type of thing. Same thing with hockey. Football's not starting for it just ended. Right, so baseball's probably got to be
canceled it,
but school's out in like 2 or 3 months. Like, so baseball's probably got to be the one that's the first one to
go. It's gonna have to go again.
Get back, right?
But how do you? It's tough. You're also sharing. Like, not all the teams have a private plane. You guys charter them, right? So that's public. Yeah. And I've heard that they're like doing like internal like fog or antiseptic, whatever, cleaning it, which is fantastic. I hope they keep doing that even when this is over, because planes are dirty. But
what about hotels though, even too? So you get to a new city and you have 80 people in your traveling party. Like,
what are hotels?
Are hotels just not going to accept people? Because I heard that was what they were doing with the NBA. They couldn't find any hotels for players to stay in, and they couldn't find any flights to get the players home. And so they're just stuck in a...
Right. And look, fortunately, again, like, professional athletes, like at the big league level or NBA or whatever, have the means to usually like find ways to figure it out, or like get home or get somewhere you need and be comfortable. But it's, I mean, it's still difficult. It's not easy. But yeah, there's.
Yeah. So what's your guess on how long it lasts? Like, if you had to pick a date when you think, like, the over-under for when baseball season starts?
I mean, honestly, I thought they were just going to do, and I thought this was a stretch, but I was like, maybe they'll just start spring training games in Arizona. They'll mess with the schedule, and the Arizona teams will play each other, like, but they'll start season in the Florida teams in the Grapefruit League.
So they, like, change the schedule?
Yeah, and just play them here. I thought that was a stretch a few days ago, but I was like, maybe I could, like, worst case, like, that's what they'll do. I didn't see this coming at all. And then I thought for sure yesterday, okay, they're going to start, like, 2 weeks in. And now it just seems like that's not even plausible. So yeah. I don't, and like the thought of even like, I don't know, so a month, maybe like 6 weeks, I feel like right now, like 6 weeks, and then they're going to start it. But
okay, so that's,
but who knows? Like
middle of May 15th, you think?
Yeah, but ask me tomorrow, and I might tell you if we can start
the whole
after the
thing's
All-Star
off.
break.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the All-Star break, it'll be great. And then, but then also, like, what happens if they literally cannot start until August? Do you play?
You can't, right?
I mean, you could for a month, but do you? Like, is that worth, like, as a player, what do you think? What would you want to do at that point? If you couldn't start until August, like.
I mean, I want to make some money. I want to get paid. I can't go 18 months without getting paid. Like, even, I mean, I probably could, but that doesn't sound good at all.
And it's going to change, like, whatever, how your lifestyle, how you live.
Right. I
and,
mean, me
and
selfishly, like, I would like to play because I'm like 3 weeks away from free agency or whatever, Because this is the other part of it too. Let's say we lose a season. Yeah, you just play next season and you're under contract or whatever, right? You push it, but now everyone's a year older. So now I just lost a bunch of value on the back end of my career or on what teams are willing to actually pay me because I'm now going to be a 31-year-old free agent instead of 30.
I think you would have to, if you miss the whole year, I think you would have to just be a free agent.
But I haven't played that much time in the big leagues because I get no service time.
I know, but do they just not, that's the thing, it's like, do you just, oh my God, that would be so bad.
Yeah.
Because, but if you're a year older, like that massively like affects your contract.
Huge.
Now also,
it could be like millions and millions of dollars.
And then what if like, so let's say you are a free agent, they give you the year, and then what if because like no one's seen your performance too, and like
right
if they're
now
going
I'm evaluated on 2-year-old performance.
Right, and then you didn't even get paid the 17.5 you got this year, right?
Right.
And then what if your free agent contract's even less, like.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems. So selfishly, I would want to play. I always want to play.
Right, of course.
I would play August through January or February and then just roll into the next season. That's just, I would do that, but that's not the right answer for everybody because not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
And it's just not safe. It's not fair to the players to roll it in like that. But you don't want this to affect now 2 seasons from now. You don't want to play August through February and then take March, April, May as off season, and then do spring training in June, and then play July through December. Like, you can't do that.
Right. What about guys even on their last year of like they're, who knows? They're going to try to get another free agent contract after this year, but they're finishing up their free agent like this contract,
and they're 35.
Yeah, and they're older, but like now they're going to go off to like.
Plus, haven't played in a year, like.
I mean, I get, but I don't know. Your body's a little less wear and tear, I guess. You didn't play for a year, but oh wow, yeah. There are a lot of the more you talk, like the more we talk about it, the more things I start thinking of, and like, oh my God, that just let's hope. And it seems like oh, there's no way it's gonna come to that, but like it could.
Yeah, but I mean, over the last 3 days, it's just every day it's gotten a little bit worse,
right.
And a little bit more bleak, And then you watch what's going on around the country too, and like the country seems to be, it's slowing down a lot. grinding to a halt. Businesses are closing, stock market's falling. There's like panic, and people are scared, and like this is what's going on. And I think deservedly so, but like it doesn't seem to be on a trajectory where it is getting
like things are getting better,
It's
right?
getting worse right now from what it seems like. So, yeah, my guess right now, if you had to put me on the spot right now, I would set the over/under on June 1st. I think that's
Wow, really?
June 1st. Because the longer you go, the longer you're going to have to ramp up.
Right.
Right. So if you go, let's say you go a month and a half without playing, so now you're middle of March, right? So let's say you go the rest of March and April.
Yeah.
Without playing. Now you're a month and a half. Now you're going to have May, 2 week, 3 week. I mean, 2 weeks is probably too short. You probably need 3 or 4 weeks at that point to ramp up. Guys may not have thrown. Guys may not be hit. Whatever they're with their family. Who knows? So June 1st would be if you had to ask me right now, June 1st. I don't think there's baseball before June 1st. And you think what's your date?
Say that. Middle of May. But
May 15th.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Definitely not April 9th.
How would you now? How do you even?
You can't now.
Like, I feel
Not
like they
that
should
you're
just
sending
take that
players
back
home.
now. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not even a thing.
Well, then the other question too is, what do you do with the games? Do you just cancel them and shorten the season? Do you
I know,
lob
you
games
can't-
on to the end?
Well, because this is what I was thinking about this yesterday, and like, do you just like take the beginning of the season? So, what was your first series at home against St. Louis? Like, do you just start there and just wherever on June 1st you start there? But when I think about it, like I forget that like people bought. I guess people buy tickets way in advance. If it's like
what about season ticket holders?
That's what I'm saying. Season ticket holders, or just like people that this is, like they'll go to one game a year kind of thing. It's a big event, and they are going to travel to a city to see a specific series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just say, oh, by the way, now like, oh, this series isn't going to be in that city, or they're playing a different team. What if you were going to see that team? Or
Right.
Boston, I'm pretty sure like plans around the marathon and stuff like
There's
city
100%
events. Right.
because there's concerts that are held in ballparks.
Right, so you can't just like you change the schedule and like, oh, by the way, like this weekend we're actually now going to be playing.
Right.
So I think you just have to start where it left off. But what if that messes with the division too? Because what if a bunch of your division games were
Yeah.
because there are teams where
You
that
have to
happens.
rework the whole schedule.
Oh my
And
god.
it takes them like they plan the schedule usually like a year in advance.
I think it's
to
like
get it all done.
Yeah. I remember reading or something, it was like this mom and pop that like in middle America somewhere.
I knew it used to be. I don't know if it's currently
I don't know.
still is.
I feel like
know
it has to be like automated.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, I was talking to the union earlier today, and oh man, I don't envy them. Like what they have to figure out now.
Yeah.
It's not even like, I mean, we're just trying to get answers, right? And like tell the players. But like they got to create this stuff and like figure it out and solve it. Like it's like uncharted territory.
Yeah, no blueprint.
Yeah.
No blueprint at all. All right, well, that's our talk for today. So I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow for more coronavirus updates. Rachel, thanks for joining me, giving us a unique perspective on that one. And be safe, everybody.
Stay healthy. Wash your hands.
Yep.
And hope for baseball soon.
Yeah, pray for baseball soon. We all need it.